Sister, help me breathe. Tell me why it couldn't be easier. The voices got me losing sleep. Tell me why I couldn't be dreaming. Sister, sister, help me breathe. Tell me why it couldn't be easy, easy. Voices got me losing sleep. Tell me why I couldn't be dreaming, dreaming. Right from the beginning, we make the wildest animals. Knew right from the beginning, we make the wildest animals. New light comes and we're dimming. We bring the damage to the world. But if it's human nature, I can't help myself. Oh, and if it's complicated, they just wanna yell. Oh, won't you hear me? Won't you hear me, please? Won't you hear me, please? Sister, sister, help me breathe. Tell me why it couldn't be easy, easy.
Check to check. Is this working? Hey everyone, how's it going? It's Claire. Really great to see all of you again. We're here for another week of 343 TV, which is actually, it's the last week of 343 TV for 343 TV Season 2. But I hope everyone's doing great. Thank you all for joining in and being here with us. My name is Claire, as I just mentioned. I'm an instructor at 343 Labs, and I'm also an Ableton Certified Trainer. And I host the Monday show, which is Tips and Tricks. So usually we talk about all things related to live and push and, answer any other questions that people might have. Ooh, also, I think like my background, it changed to pink. I totally forgot that I did that, but oh well. There it is. And yeah, thank you so much everyone for tuning in. Hi to a couple of people in the chat. Let's see who we have. We got John. Hey, John. We got Samuel. Hello, Samuel. Enigmatic Onion. Nice to see you. Yes, rainy/snowy New York. I ran some errands this morning and got totally drenched, so that was really fun. But no, it's really shaping up to. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas in New York when you have snow or rain, hail-ish type things. So there's lots of that. Hi to Thomas behind the 343 Labs name. As always, thank you, Thomas, for being here. Ooh, this is a really good opportunity also to remind everyone that as with other weeks of 343 TV, we have a giveaway this week. And this week's giveaway is a $300 voucher to 343 Labs. And you can get a class from us. You can get lots of different things for us. I'll speak to that in a moment after I say hi to everyone. Hi, Andrew. How's it going? Hey, Scott. How's it going to Ryan? The amazing Ryan Reset. Thanks for tuning in, Ryan. And Zombie Gambino. Oh, great. Do you have a burning question? Yeah, feel free to type that in to the chat. Also, my name is in lowercase letters. If you're using my artist name, it's in lowercase letters, DOLLTR CK. So there's that too. But in the meantime, like I said, we are here hosting 343 TV. 343 TV is brought to you by 343 Labs, and we are a school in Manhattan in New York, but we also have a location in Berlin as well as in the greater online sphere of things, which is where you can find us a lot of nowadays because of the pandemic especially. But we do have in-person classes both in New York and Berlin, and if you want to find out more, you can head over to 343labs.com for the New York side and the online side, and 343labs.de for the Berlin side, which is in Germany, right? So you can find out more info there, but we have lots of really great courses. So we have Ableton Live courses hosted by Ableton Certified Trainers such as myself. We also have lots of different kinds of courses pertaining to certain skills like songwriting and composition and synthesis and mixing and mastering. And our mixing and mastering class, as well as a lot of our Ableton Live courses, are taught by the amazing Abe Duque, who will be doing tomorrow's show. He's going to be doing a special TAETRO Talks thing. If you've tuned into 343 TV previously, you'll know that Tuesday is usually our TAETRO show. But Abe will be doing TAETRO's show tomorrow. TAETRO is our creative director. So we will have the wonderful Abe Decay tomorrow, which I'll speak a bit later, more about later. And yeah, we have programming every day for 343 TV too. So if you're just tuning in, welcome. Don't forget to subscribe and like if you want to be updated with more videos from us. But yes, today's show, very special tips and tricks show. I feel like this is probably the most, I don't know, the most talking to myself that I will be doing without necessarily talking to live. Sometimes when I do the streams with 343 TV, I do kind of think of myself as talking to live. Of course, talking to everyone in the community, which I'm very happy about. I love hanging out with the community. Yeah, hey everyone. And yeah, but now I'm kind of just talking to myself, I guess, and also answering questions. So if you have questions, everyone, feel free to type them into the chat, and then I will go ahead and write them in here too. I can change the stuff in here. So write in show, type in your questions. So let me know what questions you have. You can totally tell me about your questions in the chat. Ooh, hello also to Bustelio. I'm sorry, I do hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. I apologize if I'm not. John, hey. Taught our first Ableton class on Saturday. Yay, that was awesome. Yeah, I just taught one of the classes for Ableton Live. I love sharing about live, especially for people who are just joining the club. So really happy that you enjoyed the class. Oh, I hope you enjoyed the class. I don't know. And yeah, glad that you're here to learn more. So yeah, feel free to start the questions coming, everyone. This first one is from Zombie Gambino. Thank you for your question, Zombie Gambino. Zombie Gambino writes, my question for you is how to MIDI map an expression pedal or two through a DAW so you can control parameters with your foot while playing the keyboard. That's an excellent question. Thanks for that. I'm going to go ahead and put it over here. Let's see if we can fit it in. Yes. How to map an expression pedal or two through a DAW so you can control parameters with your foot while playing the keyboard. This is a really great question. And I think something important to keep in mind over here, and this is why I love doing this like writing thing, because I can highlight things. An expression pedal, what exactly is an expression pedal? Well, for those of us who might not be in the super in the know about like specific MIDI stuff, an expression pedal or even controller stuff, an expression pedal is very much like a normal pedal that you might see, say, used by a keyboard player who's doing like electronic music-y kinds of things, but it's a little different in that it doesn't kind of automatically bounce back to the normal position that it's in. It kind of goes back and forth a little. But the most important thing about an expression pedal is that it is giving out MIDI CC data, right? Which Zombie Gambino also kind of shared about, like they already addressed it in their question. So I'm going to go ahead and underline a couple of these terms, which are important for us to keep in mind. So expression pedal, MIDI mapping. Depending on the DAW that you're using, and it can vary depending on whether you're using, say, Logic or Live or anything, you will have to look up how to MIDI map in that. You would pretty much MIDI map an expression pedal the exact same way as you would map any other type of MIDI controller. So for example, in Live, since this is our live Ableton Live show, in Live, you'd be able to map different kinds of MIDI controllers by going into MIDI mapping mode. So that's going to be Command M on a Mac or Control M on a PC. So you can also click on the top right of Live. There is a button that says MIDI. And if you click on that, you'll be able to put things into mapping mode. So if you want to map an expression pedal, it's exactly the same as any other kind of MIDI controller. In Live, you would have to go into MIDI mapping mode. Then you would select the parameter that you're going to change. So let's say I'm using the expression pedal to change volume. That's something that's pretty common. Maybe I'm doing volume, and maybe even could be something creative like filter, a little bit more out of whack with that. But the moment you decide what you want to control, you would click on that control inside Live, and then you would move the pedal, and that's it. You've got it mapped. There you go. So I hope that answers your question, Zombie Gambino. If you're I'm not sure what DAW you're using, so that's why I kind of tried to give a little bit more of a broad answer, but maybe you're using Live. Hopefully you're using Live, because I just gave the answer pertaining to Live. But regardless of what DAW you're using, it always really helps to be able to just do a quick search and look up the specific instructions on how to MIDI map something. And since an expression pedal is giving out MIDI information, it's going to be the exact same method that you would use for any other kind of thing that you would be mapping. So thank you for your question. Hope you like that question. Yes. Okay, next question comes in. Yeah, please leave the questions in the chat, everyone. Would love to hear. I'm excited for the next ones too, Bustelio. Let's see. Scott, which plugins, if any, do you use for your vocals? They sound so nice and clean. Okay, cool. Thank you for the kind words. I appreciate it. I'm going to put this into the part over here. So which plugins, if any, do you use for your vocals? They sound so nice and clean. So to kind of also put everyone on the same page, oftentimes when people refer to plugins, they might refer to things like effects or instruments or processors. As far as my vocals go, it really depends on what exactly I'm doing to them. If you listen to me in any of my live sets perform, I have a pretty straightforward vocal chain that I've actually gone through before in one of my previous streams on 343 TV. But the most important things that I think about are the following. So I'll type them out over here. I think a lot about EQ because for me, in my voice, I'm very aware of certain parts that are a bit more resonant. My voice is, and this is something that it depends on the vocalist itself, and it's something that you'll develop over time. My voice is a little bit harsh around the 3 kilohertz range. If you've ever talked to me in real life, you might know this. So it's kind of like, it's a little bit out there. So 3 kilohertz range. And I also have a hypersibilant voice. What that means is that my S's and my T's tend to be very, very prominent. You can even hear that in my mic now. So because of that, EQ is really important to me. I tend to EQ out those bits. And then I go for some compression. I will also say at this stage that if I'm performing or producing in a certain DAW, most oftentimes I just use the stock plugins. So whether that's Live or whether that's Logic or whether that's Bitwake, if you know how to work a normal EQ and compressor, you can pretty much use it in any DAW. So EQ, compression, just to give it a little bit more dynamic control, especially when I go into very soft types of tones. Sometimes, depending on what the situation is, I also put a little bit of chorus on my voice. And it's just an effect that I found tends to thicken it up a little bit more in the slightly mid-rangey type of range on my voice, so I often put that in too. So I got EQ, compression, chorus, then sometimes I'll have some time-based effects, so it could be something like reverb, might also have a little bit of delay depending on the situation. Usually when it's delay, it is synced, so that means it's synced to whatever tempo of my song is. So yeah, that's kind of like my standard vocal chain that I have: EQ, compression, chorus, reverb, delay. If I'm doing not funny stuff, but if I'm doing more, I guess, creative processing stuff, sometimes you'll also see me use a vocoder, which isn't necessarily a plugin on the voice, but it's kind of like an accompanying thing. So I might have a vocoder plugin in Live. I mostly use the native vocoder, unless I'm doing production stuff, in which case I use Vocal Synth 2 by iZotope, which I'm a big fan of. Big fan. I love iZotope Vocal Synth. I'm not sponsored by iZotope, but hey, maybe in the future. We'll see. So I hope that answers the question, Scott. Thanks for that wonderful question. Ooh, Ryan, thank you for your question. In the market for your first MPE controller, any recommendations? I love this question. Thank you for it, Ryan. I think at this point, my go-to for any MPE recommendation, and I guess it also depends a little bit on your budget as well. But if you can afford maybe a couple $100, I would strongly suggest the Stencil Morph and overlays. The reason being, I'm a big fan of the Stencil Morph. It's over there. It's kind of under a couple of things now because I was doing a fun video of it, which maybe is for later. But I love the Morph. I love how light it is. It's so portable. It's so flexible. You can switch over it with like tons and tons of different sorts of overlays, which I've used in a couple of my videos too. So if you head over to my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/dolltr, you'll see me use the Stencil Morph in at least, I think, 2 or 3 videos I talk about it and demonstrate it. So that's kind of, that's my recommendation off the bat, if you have the budget for it. Another really good thing to consider is, I think, the Roly Song Maker Kit. That's also a really great one. They may or may not still sell this as a bundle, but you'll have lots of different kinds of Roly blocks available. So you have the light pad block, you have the seaboard block, which I love. It's kind of squishy in a bit of a strange sort of way, but I do like it. It puts me in a different type of zone to be able to do that. So I love these two. I think these would be my top two. Although I will say that the morph I'm also a big fan of, just because of the way that I've been able to use it with Bitwig. And I know some folks already know this too, but big fan of Bitwig. I'm also a Bitwig certified trainer, so those two are kind of like my top ones. So yeah, thanks for your question, Ryan. Hope that helps. Enigmatic Onion, confused about the difference between MIDI mapping and MIDI learn. Oh, okay, cool. So let me just take this question and put this over here. Let's see. To be honest, there is no difference. It's more terminology, a terminology sort of thing. If you are mapping a MIDI control, I guess it's more of an English thing. English is a very strange language. I mean, it's not just it's kind of like the same, if you will. MIDI mapping, I think we usually use it in the context of, let me actually think about this a little bit more from a pedagogical standpoint, because I've used both terms before quite frequently. I really do think it's more of the DAW itself. For example, in Logic, if you were to look up this type of thing, MIDI learn is what you would find in the user guide. But if you looked in Live, or if you looked in the Ableton reference manual, MIDI mapping is what you might find. So it really depends on what you think. So I don't think don't get too concerned with that, Enigmatic Onion. I think it's pretty much the same for most part. Ooh, Zombie Gambino. Yes, you are most welcome. Oh, that's very kind of you. You mentioned my positiveness. I think it's really important to be positive, and a lot of people. Funnily enough, I'll mention this. I'm glad that you appreciate it. A lot of people have seen positivity sometimes, from my experience in working in this industry for a couple of years, as a sign of like being a pushover or something. I'm like, so they try to pull a fast one, but it's like you can totally be positive. It doesn't mean you have to be like not strong about it. There's a lot of room for positive strength. And it's important to be optimistic, I think. If we didn't have hope, then we would be going nowhere. So, cool. What hardware... Oh, yes, follow-up question. What hardware is required to interface between an expression pedal and your computer? That's an excellent, excellent question. Okay, cool. So this is kind of like that middle step, right, that we talked about. We already talked about how we map that pedal to a specific kind of control. Oh my goodness, I had a huge brain fart. But a control. So now how do we get that from whatever you're using to your computer? So the assumption oftentimes when we use pedals is that we may or may not be using it with a controller that accepts some kind of pedal input. This could be as easy as grabbing, say, some kind of MIDI keyboard, like the MPK Mini. It has a pedal input. Push also has a pedal input that you could use for this. So I would say if you have an existing keyboard, or if you have an existing MIDI controller of any kind that's able to accept that kind of pedal input, that's probably your best bet, so that you don't have to buy another thing. I have seen specific kinds of hardware in the past, and their names escape me at the moment, but I have seen specific kinds of units that will let you connect via USB to your computer. And it's like a little knobby thing that you kind of put in, and then you'll be able to convert it. But that was not the best physical description of an item. I'm sorry. But yeah, I think if you do own an existing keyboard, probably your best bet is to just plug that keyboard in through USB or controller through USB to your computer. And then you should be able to get your expression pedal working with whatever software you're using. I think, what software are you using? I'm not sure if... Ooh, you use Live. Great. Okay. Yeah. So once you have that keyboard connected to Live, you will be able to use the pedal with Live. You should be able to. And if you don't, always check the reference manual and just make sure that you've got all of the right settings set up for your MIDI controller. Yeah. Oh, sorry. I just saw your next. I just saw your next comment about the use a USB keyboard that's not a synth. Yeah, totally. So you should be able to plug it in. So far the Blue Board iRig seems like the best fit. Yeah, I mean iRig stuff is pretty good for interfacing, but if that USB keyboard that's not a synth, if that keyboard already has a pedal input, you should be good to go. So yeah. was telling you, I didn't know you could map out your voice like that. Ooh, I'm not exactly sure what you mean, but if you want to clarify, we can talk about that a little bit too. Samuel mentioning, oh yeah, the light pad block. Yeah, that's a good option too. I'm not sure what you're saying no about, but we'll see. We can revive that a little bit later. Thanks for all of your questions so far, everyone. Please keep them coming. Music MK. Any tips for growing on social media for artists? Oh my goodness, of all the people to ask this question to, I'm sorry that you had to ask it to me. Thanks for your question, Music MK. Honestly, I don't have tips. I feel like the right person to ask this question to would very much be TAETRO, who's our creative director at 343 Labs, and he's killing it on social media. I have such a strange relationship with social media. I actually, I hesitate to even say it now, but I actually really don't like it. It makes me feel very strange. That's part of the reason why I've made sure that my social media accounts are strictly for dolltr and not for Claire. Like Claire is not a social media kind of person. So yeah, I don't really have any tips necessarily. I'm sorry. I wish I could answer that question better. I mean, one thing that I have noticed that has been helpful for me, like historically, is as far as like Instagram goes and TikTok as well, just the use of hashtags can be really great. Because even if folks aren't following your account, if they follow a hashtag, that's usually a really great way of finding new material. That's how I find new clips with cute pets and cute dogs and cats. I follow hashtags. So maybe that's something. I'm really sorry. I do wish I could answer this question better. But one thing that TAETRO did mention to me once previously, thank you TAETRO for this really nice advice, is consistency, I think is very important. So being able to, post, even if you can't do like every single day. He does every single day. So he's amazing for that. Even if you can't do that, I think just doing like maybe once a week and at least building up some kind of rhythm for yourself is good. So perhaps that's something to consider. I'm not sure what you're doing at the moment, Music MP. Maybe you're already doing that. And I mean, I guess I would also I always tread very carefully when I talk about this, but I guess I would also be mindful of why you're putting out certain kinds of content. Like oftentimes most of what I share on socials is because I've made a piece of art or I've made a piece of something, even if people don't consider it art. I've made a thing and I want to share it with people, not to become famous. A lot of people, I guess, they want to blow up, which is nothing against that, but I think it's nicer to just share things with people in a more authentic way than specifically like, try to catch on a trend or something like that, if that makes any sense. Sorry. I do wish I could answer that question a little better. Enigmationian. I'm also looking for a comprehensive book on understanding synthesis. I know there's a lot out there, but do you have recommendations? Ooh, okay, that's a really great question. I do have a few things off the top of my head. They might not necessarily be books, but synthesis is such a deep topic to even begin to speak about. When I started learning about synthesis, I was confused almost all the time. And I wish I had this website that exists now that is called, let's see if I can type it in here. It's called learningsynths.ableton.com. I'm not sharing this just because I'm an Ableton Certified Trainer, but this is a website that is so good with understanding the basics of synthesis and synthesizer concepts and anything that you need, and it's free. And that I just love the free resources from the Ableton folks. I think they're just really well put together. The other really great website that's not for synthesis but it's more for learning music in general is learningmusic.ableton.com. But yeah, learning synths is a really excellent starting point. And it's not so much a book as much as it is a website, but I do like it a lot. I share it even with my younger students as well as my older students. I think it can apply to most people. If you are looking for a book, though, what's a good book? Well, as far as recent books, there are lots of different kinds of recent books that are available on the internet and lots of really good tutorials. I guess this maybe speaks a little more to my age as well as my academic background. But back in the day when I was learning about synthesis in a more formal sort of setting, there were two books actually, part 1 and part 2, called the Synthesizer Cookbook by Welsh. So Welsh's Synthesizer Cookbook, parts 1 and 2. And they both dive into different kinds of synthesis, like subtractive. I think book 2 deals with a different kind of synthesis, like FM or something. I may be wrong. This was a long time ago, so I can't remember exactly for sure. But yes, that's a really good book if you want to have something maybe that's a hard copy. Otherwise, definitely I do recommend learning synths.ableton.com. That's something that I like to share with a lot of people. So I hope that helps a little bit. Enigmatic Onion. Bustelio, I've been meaning to... oh, God. I've been meaning to pick up Welsh's Synthesizer Cookbook. It's a good one. Bustelio, if you do decide to pick that up, I would highly recommend that. It's a really good book. Parts 1 and 2, if you can. If you can get your hands on both of them, would highly encourage it. So that's a really good one. Zombie Gambino, it takes more strength to be positive. Don't listen to it. Yeah, absolutely. No, I totally agree with that. I also think like it's part of that reason that, and maybe this is slightly off a tangent or something. But that's part of the reason why I have dolltr. I think that historically, Claire is a lot more cynical and disillusioned with the state of affairs. But whenever I go into dolltr mode, so if you've ever seen me in a live show, or if you've ever seen me do things as dolltr where I have like my braids and stuff like that, dolltr is definitely very, very positive. She knows like that she can do anything. Claire's a little bit more on the back end of things, working and doing all the tech stuff. But yeah, dolltr is there for me. She helps me a lot. I owe her big time. Asa, hi, welcome. I think you may have just joined in as well as Space Facts. Hello to both of you. Yeah, wholesome, positive, strength vibes. I think like there's a lot of things to be said about being real and being down to earth. But optimism is, I think, underrated nowadays. At least in my opinion and how I feel. So let's see. What do we have over here? Oh my goodness, I nearly knocked over my coffee. That's okay. Coffee break. Ooh. TWD, greetings. How are you? I have found, what did you, sorry, oh no, I'm scrolling up and down the chat. Goodness. I found MIDI learn used when the MIDI mapping is handled with some level of automation. Click the thing you want to change, wiggle knob, mapped. Whereas mapping without MIDI learn can be done through drop down assignments and coding and such. Okay, that's an interesting distinction. Now that I think about it, in that case, maybe live is considered more of MIDI learning because they don't use the term learn, they call it mapping, but based on what you just described, they have MIDI learn, and conversely, Logic is MIDI mapping. It's actually the opposite of what you just mentioned, but maybe, I don't know. This is something that we can absolutely explore, and maybe I'll ask a couple of my other friends or my professors who have done this for a longer period of time than I have. I have a very limited compared to a lot of my my mentors out there. So great. Oh, Samuel, I'm thinking of upgrading to my next MIDI controller. I'm thinking of either getting a light pad. I'm assuming you mean the block, the Roly blocks. You feel free to clarify that. Or a Nectar 49 MIDI keyboard. I have a launch key MIDI. What do you think? Ooh, that's a great question. Thank you for that. Let me put it in our blue box. Our big blue box. Oh, this will totally be a thing. I like what I just mentioned. Okay, cool. So you're thinking of upgrading to your next MIDI controller, and you're thinking of either getting a light pad block, maybe. I'm just going to make a note. Block? Or a Nectar 49 key MIDI keyboard. I would say it really depends on what you want to achieve, Samuel. These two things, the light pad block, which I'll underline, and the Nectar 49, are very different. It's usually sometimes if the dilemma is a little bit more tricky when you're dealing with two models of the exact same thing just made by different companies. But in this case, I would say, it really depends on what you're trying to achieve. If you want to do maybe more MPE stuff, or perhaps you're looking for a little bit more of an alternative type of controller, it might be in your best interest to get the block. But since you have a Launch Key Mini, which I believe is the 25 key one, and you're thinking about the 49, which is larger and I think has the full size keys, if you want to maybe develop your piano skills a little or keyboard skills a little further, then perhaps the 49 is best. So it really depends on what you want, I think. And maybe this is a question to consider as well. Especially, and this is great because you already have a MIDI controller. And this is a question I always ask my students. I'd always advise my students to ask themselves whenever they're thinking about upgrading or buying a second controller with your existing controller. So let's say even Push, which I have over here. Make a list. Make a list about what you like about it, what you don't like about it, and if you had the power to change something, what you would change. So these three things, if you think about what you like, what you don't like, and what you want to change, these can actually be really good guiding questions for what your next controller is. So for example, if I have an MPK Mini, I like it. I like how small it is. I like that it's got lots of different knobs. But maybe what I don't like is that it only has 25 keys. And I love playing the piano. I love playing electronic synths with a keyboard. So I want to have more keys. So then my question is answered. I probably want to look for a controller when I'm upgrading that is larger. But maybe I still want it to have some kind of other MIDI controls like knobs and pads. So that's another guiding principle that might lead me to a controller with those features rather than a controller that doesn't have those features but has more keys. So I hope that kind of answers your question a little bit for that to that end. Okay, cool. So next couple of questions. Thank you for the questions, everyone. Please keep them coming in. We still got half an hour more. Ooh, but it is at the half-hour mark, though. So at this point, I will take a break to say thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Please enter the giveaway for this week. We have a $300 for voucher, $300 voucher for 343 Labs. You can use that voucher to get classes with us, which we have, and you can find more offerings at our website, which is 343labs.com. We're going into holiday season, so if you win the voucher, and if you want to maybe gift a class to someone, that's something that you could do too. Like maybe you're not necessarily a fan of going to class at this time of the year, but if you want to gift it to someone, maybe you can. That's something that a lot of people have done before in our classes as well. We'll have parents or partners purchasing classes for their significant others or their kids or their parents, depending on which direction you're kind of going into. So that's something to consider as well. Please enter the giveaway. We want you to win. We always want you to win. So don't forget to enter that, please. Okay, so Zombie Gambino. You have Push 2, and it has 2 pedal inputs. One is specifically to sustain, and expression pedal can be 0 to 127. Also, your keyboard, it doesn't have the expression pedal plugin. So, with the expression pedal, if you do have Push 2, try using input number 2. I'm pretty sure that has worked before. I've used it with several different kinds of pedals, sustain pedals, also expression pedals, and sometimes even just one-shot triggers. So if you are using Push 2, try input number 2 on the back. That could be the input to go to. Something else that you could try is putting it into input 1, but looking for a Max for Live device that swaps the CC. Because input number 1, if you're using a sustain pedal, is going to be CC64. And then you can, I'm going to speed through this. If you put Push into user mode, you'll be able to you'll be able to map CC64, and then you can use something to convert that to like CC11 or something, which is expression pedal. And let's see. Pedal input for your, okay, cool. So this is an important concept, okay? I'm gonna put this in here. This is something that Zombie Gambino left in the chat. The pedal input for my keyboard is only sustain. Doesn't transmit MIDI information. Here's the thing. Sustain, and I'll make this big. Sustain is CC information. It's going to be CC64. So it will still send CC data. If you're not seeing CC64 show up, it could be for a number of reasons. one of the reasons could be a manual internal override, which is something that happens when you open up a controller and you might have to fiddle around in it. So I'm not sure if it's that, but maybe check a couple of things. Check whether in live, if you have remote on in your MIDI remote section in your MIDI setup, you want to take a look at that. So check if you have remote on. And it will transmit MIDI data. CC64 is MIDI. Oops. Yeah. So it does transmit MIDI data. I would suggest taking a second look at that. If you still have trouble with that, feel free to just check out the manual and see what you find over there. Let's see. Ooh, next question. Hello, Kinman from Hong Kong. Hi, greetings. I've just started exploring music production. I've got an Akai MPK Mini and Ableton Live Lite. I play classical piano. Do you have any suggestions on where I should start? Yes, I do. Thank you for your question, Kinman. I'm going to copy and paste this over here just so we can all see it together. Yes, so you got an Akai MPK Mini. Congratulations. And Live Lite. That is an excellent starter combination. I would suggest going to the Ableton website, ableton.com. They have a really wonderful series that's called Learn Live. And this is something that you can find on their website, Learn Live. If you go to ableton.com and you head over to Learn Live, there are lots of really great bite-sized tutorial videos that you'll be able to check out and learn more about live. And you can also find them on the Ableton YouTube channel too. So even if they're not on the website, which they should be, you can also head over to the YouTube channel of the Ableton folks. So I think that's youtube.com/Ableton. And that's going to let you learn more about live. But congratulations, welcome to the dark side. Whoops, did I just say that out loud? I'm kidding. No, welcome to the world of music production. Congratulations on joining us. And yeah, I hope you enjoy yourself. And it's going to be a long journey, a long and arduous one, but hopefully a very fun one. So yay. Andrew, you at me, you tagged me. Thank you for all the tips you posted. Yes, you are more than welcome. It's been really fun to be able to share with everybody. So thank you all for tuning in. We really appreciate it. I think that's been one of my more favorite parts about, having this community and hanging out with y'all. I feel like I'm not talking to myself, which I do quite often at home anyway. So it's just like, but yes, thank you for always tuning in. Space facts. Yep, social media sucks. I'm glad we're kind of in the same boat. I really do think it's because this surprises some people, but I'm very much an introvert. I'm kind of like an extroverted introvert. My favorite thing to do is read. I love just like being at home and reading, and I love reading manuals, which a lot of people know about. So if you ever need to get me a gift for Christmas, or if anyone's watching out there, buy me a manual or like an instructional book about something, and I'll be so happy. Like I'll just be over the moon. Samuel, I said no about you not mentioning the live pad at the moment in time. Okay, I think I understand what you're saying, but that's like I did mention it later though. So okay, cool. Max, it is the Max Wild. Max is our co-founder. Everyone, he's currently in Berlin. Thanks for tuning in, Max. Are you on TikTok? I am. I gave up after a while though. Not so much because I didn't like it necessarily, but I can't with social media. It's still hard. I need to work really hard on my social media game. So maybe that's my 2021 resolution, everybody. Reviving TikTok. For a while, it did work out pretty okay. Like I posted some things. And there were things there. So I think you can still find me there. I'm not under Claire, but it's the usual dolltr stuff. Again, because Claire doesn't have social media. So sad. But yeah. Are you on TikTok, Max? Maybe we should go. Rio, do you ever got about music industry and business here on your college? I'm not super sure what your question means, Rio, but let me just reread this one more time. I think I understand what your question is. Did you ever learn? Do you learn about music industry? Music business here in your college? So if this is the question, I did learn about it in college, but I think, to be very frank, most of my experience was just a lot of real world stuff. Yes, I learned about it in the college that I went to, which was the College of Hard Knocks. Yes. I learned about the music business and the music industry from the College of Hard Knocks, which is to say that the real industry. I think that's the best place that you can learn things from when you're just out there in the world. You gotta get in trouble a couple of times. You gotta get screwed over a few times by people. I'm kidding. I'm kidding, but also not kidding. I am a firm believer in the importance of real world stuff. Before I graduated my actual college, which was my undergraduate degree, that time, I did like tons and tons of internships. So I would work for people for free, which in retrospect, I'm not sure if I would do again, but I absolutely treasure the experience that I had working with these people. And I did like so many different things. I did publishing. I did internships, that is to say, internships in like publishing for the business side, in marketing, in what else did I do? In community management, in communications. I did stuff there too. Licensing, contract negotiation. That was actually the best piece of experience that I had. And I also took a class. This is one class that I took in school that did like the basics of music business. And my professor at the time, he was so inspirational. He was a contract lawyer for musicians, and I went on this like deep dive and I searched all about him, and I searched about contract negotiations, and I went down this giant rabbit hole. But after that, and after being able to sign lots of contracts with my releases that are now public, that really helped me learn a lot about the industry and the business. And speaking of releases, I have 2 new songs coming out this Friday, everyone. One of them is called Constellation with No Count Records, and one of them is called Reverie with Girl Gang. And you can find out more on my Instagram, which is instagram.com/dolltr. I did post about both of them, but very exciting. I'm super excited. Big holiday season stuff. Maybe in anticipation of some things that I'm planning for next year. Ho, ho, ho. Secrets, or not secrets, but lots of things coming up on the dolltr side. And also for 343 Labs, we've got an exciting course online that's coming. So keep your eyes peeled. We can't wait to share that. But yeah, so circling back to the music business stuff, I did learn a bit, but I learned a lot more from real life. So yeah. Ooh, Max, should 343 be on TikTok? Ooh. That's a really good question. I don't know. maybe we should ask Claire. And by Claire, I mean our community manager, Claire from Berlin. We have another Claire on the team, everyone. She's awesome. Maybe we should ask Claire. I don't know. I feel like I'm not sure what we would put on TikTok. So maybe we need to have this discussion. Or maybe if anyone in the chat wants to talk about or give us suggestions for what we should put on TikTok, let us know in the chat. But that's a good question. Samuel of the last music MP. Yeah, you're most welcome. Rio, the origin historical synthesizer. Try to learn YouTube into synthesis. I'm not super sure what that means, but that's okay. Scott, which drum pad are you using, and would you get it again? Looking forward to you performing on Thursday. Yeah, thank you. I am performing on Thursday, everyone. I'm performing at the 343 Discord event. Let me go ahead and put that over here. Join our Discord. Join our Discord. We have a 343 Labs Discord where you can kind of hang out with us. And on Thursday, I'm going to be doing a live performance for an event that we're hosting in Discord. Which drum pad are you using, and would you get it again? At the moment, I'm using the Alesis Sample Pad Pro. I've had it for years. At the time that I purchased it, it was because it was on offer, I think. So that's why I bought it. I might buy it again, or now that at this stage, I would say I might buy it again for a number of reasons. One of them being I know how to program it really well. And I've kind of, another reason being like at this stage, my action with like the drumsticks and my technique for drumming has been a bit more built around that, because I'm not a drummer. I've never had any like percussion training before. So mostly when I use drum pads, especially if I'm using sticks, it's on that instrument. So I don't have drum training first. I do have marimba training. I used to play the marimba and like vibes stuff, like mallet stuff. Not just the marimba, but like mallet stuff. So I do have that, but I don't have like drum set training. So yeah, I have the Sample Pad Pro. I might buy it again. I might. I've also programmed for other people the Octopad and the SPDX by Roland. Those are really great too. So maybe I might get one of those if I had to buy something else again. So yeah, those are the top 3, I think. The SPD, at least in my head, the SPD, the Octopad, and Sample Pad Pro. So yeah, cool. Enigmatic Onion, yes, you're welcome. You're most welcome. I hope you find some good synthesizer material. Asa, what does Claire or dolltr think the coolest thing about Max Live? I'm very interested as a guitarist in its ability to work alongside analog stuff. Sorry, Ace, I'm not entirely sure of your question, so forgive me if I'm paraphrasing, but let me go ahead and copy this first, and I'll see if I can deduce what you're asking. Max for Live, maybe? Or just Live? I'm gonna guess that it's Max for Live. I love Max for Live. I make lots of my own devices too. Max for Live, for just to put everyone on the same page too, is a what is Max for Live? Oh god, this is my giant brain farts again. I haven't had enough coffee, so I'll take another sip. Oop. Max for Live. Coolest thing about Max for Live is that you can use it as an extension of Live Suite. So if you have Live Suite, you should have Max for Live, and you can build like custom devices, like custom effects and stuff like that. As a guitarist, honestly, if you go to maxforlive.com, you will be able to see quite a lot of devices that are freely available. So that might be an option for that. I mean, the thing about Max for Live is that because it's so flexible, it's really hard to kind of explicitly say how it can benefit you. But I do think, like, if I had to be very generic, Max for Live is really great for letting you make your own effects. So for example, if let's say you're dreaming about some kind of guitar pedal or maybe some kind of custom looping system, you could totally build that in Max for Live. But I'm not sure if that's your interest, so forgive me, Asa, if it isn't. But I would say even just for Live itself, so not even Max, but just Live, there are tons of really great things that you can do as a guitarist with 2 devices that I think of off the top of my head. One of them is Looper. Ooh, if I can spell, Looper. And the other one is the Amp Simulation Audio Effect Racks. That's an abbreviation that I use. I'm not sure if anyone else uses them, but the audio effect rack presets that do amp simulation in Live are so good as starting points. There are 2 specific devices in Live, amp and pedal, that work really nicely with guitars as well. So even if you're not jumping all the way to Max for Live and you just want to keep exploring Live, I definitely recommend taking a look at these couple of things. And of course, maxforlive.com. Free devices! Some of these you do have to pay for, but I would recommend paying for some of them. They're really great. I've bought a couple of video ones that I've tried to experiment with. And at this stage, I'm still poking around, so not really ready yet to share about my findings yet. I still need to do more research, but once I dig into it and know it well enough, I would love to share that with folks and share that information. Jay, the 61 key was great for you. Oh, that's great to hear. I think maybe we're talking about keyboards now. I'm trying to move on to some of the other questions. Thank you for all your questions, everyone. We have like 10. We have, let's see. We have, 10 more minutes. Great. Okay, cool. So, let's see. I'm just making sure I catch everything before skipping over. Enigmatic Onion, if you could have one analog reverb pedal, what would you choose? Looking for some reverb for your subharmonicon. Haha. Okay, this is a really great question. Thank you for it. Analog reverb pedal. Here's the thing. How about a pedal that can kind of do a bunch of things? So off the top of my head, the H9 pedal by Eventide is something that I would love to have. At the moment, it's also a little bit out of my budget, but it's I love it. I used it back when I was in school because my school had a couple of them, and it just sounds beautiful. There's so many different effects that you can get out of it. Not just reverbs, but you can also get delays, lots of different kinds of colors, crystallization textures. Really, really big fan. You can even do like harmonization with it. Get the H9 Eventide. It's my wish for everybody. Not that, of course, world peace and safety, good health in the time of this pandemic. And in addition to that, an H9 Eventide. So I hope that helps. Let's see. Oh, Thomas didn't drop the. Oh my goodness! Wow, I'm seeing so many things happen at once. Okay, hold on. Give me 1 second. Cool. Thank you for the link, Thomas, for the giveaway. You can always enter that. Stav, great to see you. Stav's a student of mine. Hey, nice to see you. Thank you so much for popping by, Stav. Not really a production question, but do you have any recommendations on music distribution websites? Okay, cool. This is a great question. Thank you for your question, Stav. So let me put it over here. I've heard some good things about Route Note. Personally, I use DistroKid. And again, a lot of people have had good experiences with DistroKid and some haven't as well. So maybe I'll just make a list of a few of these. I've heard of Route Note. That's pretty nice. I use DistroKid. I have a lot of colleagues who use CD Baby. AWOL is also a really big one that I've heard off the top of my head. And maybe the reason why these three stick up immediately in my head is that I have talked to reps from each of these. And this is actually a piece of advice, or not a piece of advice, but a statement that I once was talking to, discussing with a mentor and talking to them about. And they said oftentimes a really great way of maybe making a decision from a service kind of standpoint is to get in touch with these people and see who is able to help you the most. And this is a principle that I kind of applied even to when I was thinking about signing up with, say, a performing rights organization in the States. There's BMI and there's ASCAP and there's CSAC, and of course one of them is more exclusive than others. But for the other two, I called them up and I asked for help. And BMI was the first one to pick up my call, which was pretty cool. And then I started to learn more about them, and eventually I signed with them. Pretty much the same thing happened in this situation. I got in touch with all of these other folks, but in my experience, the DistroKid support has helped me the most as a creator, so I've stuck with them. I would say there's no harm in just also asking a few other people. Like, if anyone else uses other distributors, feel free to share your experiences in the chat with Stav. But I have also heard of a couple of people using Route Note or Root Note. I'm not sure how it's pronounced exactly, but they've used it and they enjoy it too. So yeah, I think as the most important part is as long as you do your research and you make sure you do it thoroughly. I think that's probably the most important part to consider when you're making a decision for anything. So there we go. That's a great question. Thank you for that, Stav. Let's see. John, you have the Nectar P4 and it's 3 controllers in one. Ooh, a mixing desk, drum pads, and fully weighted keyboard. That's really great. Thank you for that suggestion. That's awesome. I love Nectar's stuff too. I am a big fan of their stuff. Great. Samuel, this is turning to ask Claire about expression pedals. Yeah, totally. I think man, we could even have like a full hour about expression pedals, but we only have 5 more minutes. So I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can move on a little bit. Ooh, TWD manuals. Every time I see the manuals, my eyes light up. You cherish your Yamaha Sound Reinforcement Handbook and your oh yay, your wife loves cats. I love cats. I'm a big fan of cats. As a student, I was in Cats as well. I played the role of Demeter. I had the time of my life. And yeah, that was like the most musical involvement that I had back when I was in school. But yeah, it was so much fun. I loved being in Cats. Fun fact, I'm a dancer too. So fun fact. It's been, and yeah, it's so funny. I was having a discussion with my other side that I have that does dance, but hey, my point shoes are over here. Yeah. Put them away for now. That's another story for another day. Zombie Gambino, you are most welcome. Happy to answer your questions. And yeah, I think I'm so glad that you just mentioned that. Leads to investigate. If anything, that is one of like my main goals as an educator. I love teaching people and helping people learn things, but my goal, I feel, is to not just teach people to do a thing, but teach you how to teach yourself. So if whatever I've shared is leading you to investigate more things, that makes me the happiest. So thank you. TWD question. What should I be looking for when looking for a keyboard teacher if I were also looking for synth over acoustic? Oh, that's a really great question. Cool. Let me go ahead and put this in. I would say, as far as looking for a keyboard teacher, especially if it's in an electronic sort of setting like you mentioned, definitely look for people with keyboard playing experience in the background. And I would also say, if you do need to prioritize, or if you're able to, try to make that differentiation. So would you prefer to learn, say, from a synthesist who plays the keyboard, or do you want to learn from a keyboardist who plays the synths? I think if you're able to decide on one of those two, it might help you a little bit more in your search. And yeah, I would say from then there's always no harm in reaching out to certain teachers and just asking them. For example, I've had a number of students before who were actually looking to take piano lessons from me. So I've taught them as a pianist, but eventually they found out about my background in synthesis and production, and then they want to learn production from me, and then we can kind of make that crossover. Other times people learn production from me, and then they find out that I'm actually like, I can teach because I have a diploma in piano and whatever, and then they end up learning like piano from me too. So I think do a little bit of research on the teacher specifically, and you can also just ask them directly if they are more of a piano focused teacher in an acoustic sense, or if they're more of a synthesist who then teaches keyboard. So yeah, that's a really great question, something important to consider. Yeah, totally. John, your point about like the gigs and stuff like that. Like, go out into the world, do stuff, make mistakes, fall flat on your face many times. Broken my nose. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, let's see. Okay, cool. Last couple of questions. Thank you all for your questions, everyone. Samuel, any recommendations for actual, realistic, kind of in your face style jazz trumpet VSTs? Oh, that's a really good one. To be honest, not for me personally, but most of the times when I've had to do mock-ups, I tend to go for the contact libraries. Oftentimes for styles, I feel like this is one of the parts that the more you know about that style, the easier it is for you to program something. So it doesn't even become a question of the VSTs. It's actually you as the producer figuring out how you're going to manipulate the sound of something. So if you listen to like jazz and you listen to jazz trumpeters, you're probably going to have a much easier time programming trumpets in general, regardless of what kind of VST you're using. So I don't have a specific one off the bat, but I've managed to get a lot of mileage out of contact. Just maybe it's also partially because I did get a little bit of training in like more jazz style arranging, so I'm familiar with those nuances. So yeah, I would recommend, if you can, do a little bit more research into the style and how a trumpeter might play. And that might be a good place to start. So, yeah, yay, Max for Life. Okay, great. I'm glad that it kind of answered your question. Thanks for clarifying. Been a songwriter for 15 years, and yeah, DistroKid is kind of my go-to as well. So yeah, maybe that helps Stav a little bit. I hope that helped. Well, oh cool. I think we have one last question from Rio. Any recommendation websites or books about electronic music songwriting? Yes. That website that I mentioned just now, I'll just type it in again because I know that I didn't type in the other website that I mentioned. Go to learningmusic.ableton.com. There's a really great section about song structure. That can help you a lot with figuring out songs, especially from a songwriter type of perspective. So that's probably the place that you want to go for. But yeah. As right now we've just approached our 2 o'clock, so I'm going to take this moment to say thank you to everyone. Thank you, everyone, for all of your questions. This is the last episode of Tips and Tricks for this season of 343 TV, but we will hopefully be back soon. Oh, I know for sure that we'll be back soon. It's just a matter of figuring out when we'll be back. But yes, please stay tuned tomorrow. We have Abe Duque, the legendary Abe Duque, amazing DJ, producer, everything. standing in for TAETRO tomorrow. So it's not going to be Nick, TAETRO, doing the show, but it'll be Abe. And you can tune in again at 1 p.m. EST. Please also remember to head over to our website, 343labs.com. You can find out about more of our courses for Ableton Live, for Logic, for mixing, mastering, synthesis in Berlin, in New York City, online, in the greater, grander sphere of the internet. And yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. This has been Claire, and have a great rest of the week. Bye.
Broken skin has become my memory. Wounded heart is me falling to my knees. Blinded eyes are in search of reverie. Tell me, do I deserve my dignity? Forgotten shields across the fields, once growing green, now they're running red. But I need to find my peace in time. Can't lose my spirit to my head. There's a battleground brewing beneath my mind. There's a thunderstorm thirsting to start a fire. Should an avalanche anger the demons deep inside? Still got a battle out of Switchblade threatens to draw its line through me. One more knife in the gut and I can't breathe. Give me strength in my blood to win this fight. Recover my spark, take back my sight. And I need to find my peace in time. Begin again to see the light. There's a battleground brewing beneath my mind. There's a thunderstorm thirsting to start a fire. Should an avalanche anger the demons deep inside? Still got a battle out of There's a battleground brewing beneath my mind. There's a thunderstorm thirsting to start a fire. Should an avalanche anger the demons deep inside? Still got a battle out of With my battle scars, there ain't a flame I can't ignite. My lion heart has won the fight. Broken skin has become my memory. Wounded heart is me falling to my knees. Blinded eyes are in search of reverie.